Hello there, I'm Lady Loy and I'm a DJ on Lovers Rock Radio Fridays 5 till 7. And I'm talking about 5 till 7, 7 till 9. And on Saturdays, I'm on Gold Standard Radio 7 till 9. I've decided to do a Food for the Heart series only because I think our hearts need to be fed every now and then. And so I'm trying to find a way to nourish our hearts. So we've got something to start the day with. And today I thought about uncertainty. So let me share the meal today. Have you ever noticed that life has a way of changing the ground beneath us? One day everything seems familiar, you know where you're going, what tomorrow looks like, and what you can rely on. Then sometimes without warning something changes. A relationship ends, a diagnosis comes, the children leave home, you lose a job, someone we love dies, we move house, or we discover that life is taking a direction we never planned for. Suddenly the ground beneath us isn't what it was yesterday, and that can be unsettling. Most of us don't mind a destination changing nearly as much as we need the certainty of knowing where we're going. I had an early morning dream today. It wasn't frightening, but it left me thinking. In the dream, I was travelling on a bus when I realised it was taking me to the wrong destination. I didn't argue with the driver, and I didn't wait to see where it ended up. I simply got off. Standing there, I found myself looking across what appeared to be a wide stretch of desert. The ground was uneven, full of little mounds and hollows, and I wondered how I was ever going to get across it. So I did what most people do when I don't know what else to do. I started walking. As I walked, I became aware of a car that seemed to be following me. It wasn't threatening enough to make me panic, but it was enough to make me pay attention. Then I noticed a small family walking down a slope, so I quietly followed them. There was something reassuring about not being completely alone. As I continued, the landscape changed. What I first thought was desert now looked like heavy snow. It wasn't smooth snow either. It looked deep, with ridges and troughs as though it should have been difficult to cross. Yet something strange happened. Although it looked like snow, it didn't feel like snow. In fact, it didn't feel like anything at all. I never once looked down and thought, I've got the wrong shoes on, or this is hard work. My feet moved as naturally as if I was walking on an ordinary path. Looking back, it was almost as though the snow was only a vision. It looked real, but it didn't behave as how I expected. The light in the dream never disappeared completely. It was like that time of day we call dusk, when there is just enough light to see where you're going, but not enough to see every detail or far ahead. And then every now and then I came across little pockets of warmth and light. People were cooking, children were there. Life was quietly carrying on. I walked through one of these places, and as I left it behind, I heard someone say, "This is the heavenly realm." What fascinated me was that heaven, if that is what it was, didn't look extraordinary. It looked wonderfully ordinary. Warmth, food, children, people simply living. I kept walking until I heard someone call my name. I looked around the corner and saw another little place filled with light, a little alcove. A work colleague recognized me immediately. Her children were making a tremendous amount of noise. We exchanged a few words, and then I carried on with my journey. When I woke up, I realized something. Throughout the whole dream, almost everything changed. The bus changed, the landscape changed. What looked like desert became snow. The surroundings changed, the people changed, yet one thing remained constant. I kept walking. That made me think about life. Perhaps some of us spend so much time looking at changing ground that we forget to notice what hasn't changed. Our circumstances change, our age changes, our plans change, our confidence changes, sometimes even our friendships change. But there is often something deeper within us that quietly keeps putting one foot in front of the other, even when we have no clear idea where the road is leading. Then another thought came to me, and perhaps this is the real meal for today. How many times have we looked ahead and convinced ourselves that what lies ahead is impossible? We imagine the conversation before it happens. We imagine retirement before we reach it. We imagine loneliness, illness, loss, or failure. We look at the ground ahead and decide it will be too difficult to walk across. Yet when life finally brings us there, something unexpectedly happens. Something unexpected happens. We discover we can walk. Not because the circumstances aren't real, not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because the reality is often kinder than the picture our imagination painted beforehand. That dream reminded me that what our eyes see isn't what our lives experience. The ground looked difficult, but it didn't feel difficult. It looked like snow, but it didn't slow me down. It looked as though I should have struggled, but I didn't. How often do we allow appearances to write tomorrow's story before tomorrow has even arrived? Perhaps that's why the dream has stayed with me. It wasn't really about buses or snow. It was about learning not to judge the whole journey by what the next few steps happen to look like. Sometimes the ground beneath us changes, but changing ground doesn't always mean a harder journey. Sometimes it simply means we're travelling through a different season. If life has changed the ground beneath your feet recently, don't assume it has simply taken away your ability to walk. You may not be able to see very far ahead, the path may look unfamiliar, and the future may not resemble the one you had planned. But appearances are not always reality. There is often more strength in you than you realise, and more grace beneath your feet than you can see. So don't be afraid to take the next step. You don't need to see the whole road. You only need to see enough light for today. As the psalmist reminds us, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Sometimes that little lamp is all we need until tomorrow becomes today. And that is why this dream eventually became food for the heart. The dream was never the meal. The dream was the kitchen. The ingredients were already there. When life takes us somewhere we didn't expect, when the ground beneath us changes, when what looks impossible turns out to be something we can walk through, when we don't have the whole map but we have enough light for the next step. Those are not dream ideas, those are human experiences. So, I hope that landed somewhere in your heart. Hope it fed your heart, because I know for myself, when I had that dream this morning, I woke up with such a headache. And I thought, even though I wasn't anxious in the dream, when I woke up, I felt anxious. And it was weird because, like I said, it didn't seem frightening. I mean, in reality, if I found myself off a bus facing a massive desert or an expanse of snow, I would have started either feeling too hot, too cold, lonely, frightened. But I didn't feel none of that, which meant I did not allow my environment to affect my journey. I just kept on walking, and as I was walking, it's like the snow or the desert or whatever I was walking on didn't exist. It was though I was just heading on a journey and noticing things as I went behind. And I even thought about the car. For at one point I thought that car was approaching me because I was vulnerable. But then I thought, well, maybe it was steering me towards people to let me know I wasn't alone. So like I said, sometimes we feel as though we're alone in our problems and our troubles and our fears. But for me, I think it was telling us that we're not alone, that there is always someone or something or a light at the end of the tunnel. And those moments of light and what they called heaven is what I'm going to hold on to day by day, knowing that heaven is in the ordinary aspects of our lives, among people, among smiles, among food, for your heart. That's all for now. Bye-bye.